What's up, you guys? My name is Daniel, and on this channel, we talk about stock market investing. In today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I did a collab recently with Project Influencers, and the guy behind this channel is Franz, and his interests mainly lie in the crypto space, so he's pushing a lot of content about crypto. And for those of you guys who are on Wealthsimple, I'm sure you guys know that right now, Wealthsimple is promoting the new crypto platform. So if you're interested in learning more about crypto, you should go definitely check out his channel, and I'll link that right up here and also in the description down below. So in this interview, a few things that we're going to talk about is just COVID. We're going to talk about FIRE, or really more of the FI part of FIRE. We're going to talk a bit about cryptocurrency, the history behind it, and his story behind crypto, as well as I'll give a bit of background about my story on YouTube if you guys haven't heard it already, and why I'm doing stock market investing and talking about this topic on my channel. And there's one neat thing that I learned when I was talking to friends is that you can actually make dividends while investing in cryptocurrency. So you want to stick around for that. In the description down below, I have timestamps if you guys don't want to watch the entire interview as it is quite lengthy. And I'll just have the topics that we talk about and you can click on the timestamp that you're interested in. Smash that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and leave any comments that you have down below. Alright, let's jump right into it.
How's the market doing in Canada? Are you guys, like COVID wise, I mean, are your cases spiking like here in the US?
Oh, no, they're not exactly spiking. We're actually on the decline, which is good. US is quite different from what I've seen.
Oh yeah, we're starting to hit our peak numbers again.
Yeah, you guys are going back up.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's a, unsure outlook coming the end of the year. So I think Q2 data gets released in 2 weeks, so we'll see how bad we did.
It might be like kind of okay because the economy started to open up in June, but now I've heard it's starting to shut down again, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be shut down for the next 30 days or so.
What's happening in Texas over there? Like, what are you seeing as you're going out, or are you going out less now, or?
Well, I haven't been to the city because I live in the suburbs.
Yeah.
So at least in the suburbs, I mean, definitely less traffic.
Mhm.
I've been to downtown once last week, and traffic was much less for sure. That shutdown was sort of recent, so well, it's not really a mandatory shutdown. The governor is just like encouraging people to not leave the house, more like a recommendation instead of a mandatory shutdown.
And what's your feel on the whole thing? Like, do you think that, like, why is the states going up? Do you see anything that just looks like some behaviors that are just terrible that's causing it to
Yeah,
spike?
I think a lot of like the young Americans, like we like to party. So I'm hearing the news that a lot of the cases are from millennials.
Yeah, that's what I've
So
heard from my coworker.
yeah, so a lot of like millennials are throwing parties, like especially during Memorial Day in May. So there are a lot of parties, and like you see videos of people not obeying the bar and club rules of 50% capacity, going to bars and clubs. So I think it's our generation that's messing this up for everyone. Election year is this year also, so
Yeah, I've been sort of keeping tabs on that in the back of my mind because that's usually when the market's going to react to that one way or another.
yeah, US election is like really big for the market. It's very
Mhm.
volatile. So you add election plus COVID, yeah, it's going to be a very volatile market coming up.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Q2 earnings and the election are the next two major things that could impact it.
So I'm not really I can't really predict what's going to happen.
Yeah, like the market seems pretty immune to COVID. Like they say US cases are spiking and the stock market hits all-time highs again. Or like a lot of the tech stocks are hitting all-time highs like day after
Y-
day. It's just crazy.
yeah, Amazon approaching 3,000 if it
Yeah.
hasn't already. I just did some research on Amazon actually. Like, so as of right now, it's returned like on average, some years bad, some years really good.
Hmm.
So like it's returned 28% the last 15 years.
Yeah, and they're still continuing to grow. Like you figure they have basically all the market share by now, but they still
Yeah,
find different ways to expand their business.
probably close. Yeah. For someone like me that, hasn't really invested in Amazon, I feel like it's too late. Like
Yeah, it feels like that.
how do you jump the wagon of a $3,000 Amazon?
Yeah, I started selling out of my position actually.
Yeah.
I sold out like 66% of my position. Uh,
Yeah. because it's just hard
Maybe,
as a new investor to jump in at 3,000.
yeah.
I feel
I,
it's
w-
overvalued.
I wouldn't have the guts. Like I got in around 1,300 or so.
All right, guys. So we're doing a collab with the Fire Grind with Daniel here. And yeah, so mainly we're going to talk about topics on the financial independence retire community, as well as also talk about our channels on what we're doing. I know Daniel is mainly focused on stock market, mainly in Canada, and I know he invests in some U.S. stocks as well, right?
Yeah.
And then my channel is mainly also in Fire, but I sort of focus a little bit more on the blockchain space and the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin space. So we sort of have that divergence in that we both believe in the financial independence and retire community, which we both have the aspiration to one day retire early and do our passion. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to do this collab with Daniel. And it's always good to meet other people in the community and sort of collab and just pick their brains on their ideas on how they can potentially retire in their early 30s, hopefully.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, friends. It was pretty interesting how we met. Literally, I think you watched one of my videos, commented like, "Hey, do you want to do a collab?" And then I messaged you back, and then all of a sudden we started chatting on email, then got on like Google Hangouts call, and then here we are today, just chatting on Zoom and doing this thing.
Yeah, I was actually pretty early in my YouTube journey back then. I'm pretty sure I've only uploaded like two or three videos.
Yeah, I think I just hit 1,000 subs when you
Yeah, I
messaged me.
remember.
Yeah.
Well, because I found your channel, you were actually like at 900.
Oh yeah, just
Yeah,
about
so
to
you exponentially grew in the last 2 or 3 months. So congrats, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been crazy. Trying to do this and work my full-time job, and it's like, like basically sleeping at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., just trying to push videos out. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely enjoyable. It's neat that I can turn like my stock market passion into teaching other people about it, and also making a little bit of money on the side to help me continue investing.
yeah, it's good. Yeah,
And I guess
because
that's
one
the goal for you too, right?
that yeah that is the ultimate goal to hopefully one day. I mean, I'm not going to rely on YouTube income to pay for my cost of living while I'm
Yeah.
traveling, but hopefully I have an investment portfolio that has enough passive income for me to pay for my cost of living, like wherever country I am, like whether that be the Philippines or Vietnam. I just
Hmm.
want to have enough for my portfolio, and then whatever I make from YouTube would just be bonus. And I love doing this anyway, so
Yeah.
if I make a few $100s a month from YouTube, cool, that's awesome. But definitely not relying on that source of income for now. Let's sort of get started on sort of our focused content on our channels, because I know, like I said, for me, I'm more in the blockchain cryptocurrency space and Fire.
Mhm.
Let's start with you. So I know you've been sort of promoting this app similar to Robinhood. I think it's called Wealth Made Simple. I think. What's the name of
Uh,
the app?
Yeah, so the app that I'm mainly on right now is Well Simple Trade. And I
Okay.
remember like, a couple years back when we still didn't have Well Simple Trade, I was looking over the borders and like seeing Robinhood come up, M1 Finance, Webull. And I was like, man, I wish Canada had some sort of zero commission trading fee platform.
Yeah,
Because right now, like back then I was using TD Direct Investing and I was paying like $10 per trade. So
that's
once
insane.
Yeah, like if you're gonna trade $100 worth of stocks, you're paying $10 right up front just to trade that. So you need to make a 10% gain to even out. And if you're selling, you lose another $10 because you got to pay that $10 commission fee to sell. So all in all, you really have to make 20% off your $100 investment.
Yeah.
You can break even. So once Well Simple Trade came along, like I hopped on it right away. Like I signed up as soon as they announced their pre-launch. So I became one of the beta testers, and they launched the platform officially like 1 month later. Definitely not as advanced as TD Direct Investing or even Robinhood for that matter. Like we don't have options trading. We don't have the option to open a US account. So basically, we got to trade all in Canadian dollars. And we got to pay commission fees basically to exchange from Canadian to US currency. So that's like the downside with it right now. So I mainly trade Canadian stocks on Well Simple Trade right now.
Okay.
And the goal of my channel really was to teach about personal finance because A, I love saving money, and B, I love investing. But it kind of took the route of just purely investing right now on my channel. But sooner or later, I might branch out into a bit more personal finance stuff, talking about credit cards, talking about ways that I save money, like on phone bills, or things I don't spend my money on, like eating out. Um,
Yeah. I
I think,
like your
yeah,
so I like your video series on I remember you did a video on how you can achieve fire making minimum wage. That was a really good video actually.
yeah, yeah. It's like it's kind of crazy because people who are minimum wage, they're like, "Oh, I'll never achieve like $1 million," but really, it's very possible to do if you have the right saving mentality. You just have to sacrifice a lot of things in life, I guess, like those dream vacations or that shiny new nice car.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's definitely doable. You just want to give a summary of what kind of content you're creating on YouTube, a bit more on like why you chose blockchain and
Okay.
your view on
Yeah,
that.
so sort of I first started my YouTube channel and I got into travel vlogging at
Hmm.
first, right? And because actually back in 2017, travel vlogging was the thing. Like if you were doing YouTube, most likely like you're probably a travel vlogger. So I got into that. Like we would go into different trips with family and then I would just travel vlog. But then I realized that like if you're not full time, like travel vlogging is the one niche where if you're not full time, it's going to be hard to scale that unless you talk
Yeah.
about topics of traveling. So, but the actual travel vlogging itself, it's very hard to scale. So I
Mhm.
got burnt out and I stopped doing that. And sort of I re-entered YouTube back in mid 2020, like basically during the COVID crash.
Yeah.
I mean, like we were in quarantine, so I had nothing else to do but do something with my time. So I chose to do YouTube, and I mean, I was already involved in cryptocurrency in general back in 2017. So in 2017, I invested some money. I made a lot, but then I lost it all. But it's all unrealized, you know.
Yeah.
I made a bunch of unrealized gains, and I made a lot of unrealized losses.
Hmm.
So now the portfolio is sort of like stable, with decent returns. So I've been involved with blockchain and cryptocurrency since 2017 now. I remember
Hmm.
back in 2017, I got so burnt out with the crash of my portfolio that I had to like study it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this thing has to have something. I mean, like I believed in the technology so much, but I didn't understand it so well.
Yeah.
So from 2017 to 2020, because it would take me about an hour back and forth from work to commute. So I
Mhm.
would just watch like podcasts, like on the way back to work, and then on the way back, I would watch a Bitcoin podcast, a blockchain podcast. So I
Yeah.
really tried to immerse myself in this blockchain space. So, and then here we are now in 2020. I believe that the fundamentals are very good with blockchain. So I truly believe in it since I'm so immersed in it.
Mhm.
That's why I think for me, a majority of my portfolio is in that space because I've basically immersed myself hours after hours watching the blockchain space. So my channel basically is, number one, like we talked about, the financial independence, retire early community, which is hopefully one day I can retire and travel in my early 30s full time. And then also the way I'm doing that is via my investments into blockchain. Hopefully that pays off one day.
Yeah. It's interesting how you mentioned like, you invested in 2017 and you rode the wave up as well as you rode the wave down, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're riding the wave up, you just don't really care about the fundamentals because you're just riding on this high. You're seeing your portfolio like double in matters of weeks, right?
Yeah, it's like honestly, if I can describe it to you, it's returns that you would honestly never see from a blue chip stock.
Hmm.
You know, even that 20. I remember the beginning of this video. I don't think we have it recorded, but I mentioned that Amazon had a 28% year over year the last 15 years. That's a blue chip stock right there.
Yeah.
And cryptocurrency returns like crush that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I remember I was watching like Bitcoin go up back in, was it 2017, 2018?
Yeah, 20 December 2017 was the peak, and then all the money went towards altcoins is what we call it. So January 2018 was the altcoin peak, and then Bitcoin peak was 17.
Yeah, I was watching it. I actually got into Bitcoin just because of FOMO, which was probably the worst idea ever because I think I bought in around like 22,000.
Really?
Yeah, but it was like
Wow.
such a small
Oh,
percentage of my portfolio, just in my overall investments. I was like, people are saying Bitcoin could go to 40K or 400K was like I think the magical number back then. So I was like, oh, why not? 22K, I could 20 times my money on this. If I throw a little bit at it, like, what's there to lose?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
there
I
was
think
95% to lose.
yeah. So in day trading, right? I used to day trade back in college. I
Yeah,
stopped it because it takes too much of your brain power to day trade. But
yeah,
in day trade, we had this thing called like a risk to reward ratio. So
yeah,
like okay, risk $100, but the potential reward could be 400. So
mm,
like as a day trader, as a swing trader, like that's an absolutely perfect trade. You
yeah,
know, I mean, obviously, I don't do content on trading in my channel because now I'm
mhm,
against trading. I'm more
yeah,
of long-term investing, so you can pay long-term capital gains tax. But one thing I learned from trading is like these guys love the 4-to-1, 5-to-1 trades, right? So with Bitcoin, the trading potential is like unlimited if you want to compare it to that. So basically, you can get a 10x, which is what 1,000% return to losing 100% of your capital. To me, that's a no-brainer why you wouldn't put 1, 2, 3, 4%. Obviously, like the younger you are, like if you're in your 20s, why not put 5% of your portfolio allocation for a trade that's 1,000% to 100? That's a 10-to-1 trade.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Especially if you're willing to wait like 40 years down the road. And
Exactly.
yeah, we see a lot more companies like doing stuff with cryptocurrency, like Facebook and Square, Those two are pretty major companies in the States that have announced something to do with cryptocurrency on their platform.
Yeah, there's so many big names now. Like I don't know if you've seen like Paul Tudor Jones, like one of the leading hedge fund managers here in the U.S. He
Hmm.
put 2% of his funds in Bitcoin, his hedge fund into Bitcoin. So that's pretty cool. Like you have the CEO of Twitter. If you look at Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, he has Bitcoin on his description. That's it, just
Yeah,
hashtag Bitcoin. So like you have a lot of big names, at least here in the US. I know I'm not sure about Canada, but a lot of big names in the US really support. I mean, a lot of people, also don't support it. They think Bitcoin's going to go to zero and it's rat poison. Warren
yeah.
Buffett, Warren Buffett, I think, is who said that. But yeah, there are a lot of non-believers here in the US, but there's also, a big chunk of believers as well. So that's
Hmm.
what's pretty cool. It's a pretty even playing field. So we don't really know what's going to happen unless you're willing to wait years down the road.
So for you, like what really inspires you to do YouTube? Like to continue making content? Like right now you're at around 225 subscribers.
Mhm.
So what keeps you driven to continue pushing out content?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely tough sometimes because, like, especially towards the beginning, when I first published my video back in April, when I told myself that I'm gonna go serious, where at least at a minimum I'm gonna post once a week,
Yeah.
my engagement it sucked, to be frank. Like, I was getting maybe one comment or two from a stranger, like,
Yeah.
yeah, and then a couple of likes. Like, it was the crappiest engagement, but I basically pursued on because well, I think for me, one thing personally is it's a way for me to sort of get my mind out of the market.
Hmm.
I'm the kind of person that like there's so much in my mind to where like the least I can do is actually just share it to YouTube. And I don't know, some people might not sort of believe in my philosophies, but there's someone out there in the world that believes in what I believe in. So
Yeah.
I think the fact that I just have so much in my mind, it's sort of my outlet for now, just to sort of flood my mind into the YouTube space. So for me, it's sort of a way to get my mind out of all the distractions, all the noises, especially right now, like majority of my portfolio is in the blockchain space. And you hear like Warren Buffett and, older baby boomers basically hating on Bitcoin. It
Hmm.
definitely gets very distracting and noisy,
Yeah.
whereas I believe in the fundamentals of Bitcoin. So I sort of, it's a way for me to sort of to whoever wants to subscribe to my philosophies, sort of tell them my beliefs, like my true fundamental beliefs in the blockchain space.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that, I guess, on the side of stocks. Like before starting the YouTube channel, I guess I would always be like micromanaging the portfolio, checking up on stocks all the time. I think that was just like, I needed an outlet to um,
Yeah,
talk about this content that I'm consuming because I would read articles, look at different YouTubers, and like I'd just be consumed with it. But now it's like on YouTube, it just gives me a way to explain all my knowledge and put it out there and see where the gaps are in my knowledge as well. Because when you start talking about something and you're like, oh, I realized looking back at my earlier videos is like, oh, I didn't know as much as I did today. And I'm doing a lot more research into stocks and how to explain it to the average person. And I think the goal really is to educate other people about what I'm passionate about. Because I think,
Nice.
everyone, a lot of people spend a lot of money. They don't know how
Yeah.
to save. And I think that's like the biggest problem with society, or at least one of the biggest problems, that people retire with debt still. And that's a scary thing. And I knew that like from a young age, like at the age of 5 or something, I was like, I was very conscious about my savings and not spending too much. And I don't know, maybe I got that from my parents, just the way that they use their money. And I'm not saying like they're like Scrooges or anything, but they use it wisely and they don't like spend lavishly. Um, and maybe I've taken it to the extreme sometimes, but I think I'm just trying to like figure out how to balance that between saving and also spending what it is necessary. Things like relationships matter. Spending to save time can be is like beneficial, I think, in certain cases, and being smart with your money. So I think really
Okay.
it's about education on my channel to really teach people how to invest and how to save money. And I think that YouTube is a great outlet for that.
So it's cool how you going back to earlier on what you said, how like growing up you had sort of that mindset of just saving money. Because I was actually like opposite. Like growing up, I was a big spender.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like as a kid, my mom would give me, I don't know, like a $20 allowance or something.
Oh,
I
so
would I
blessed.
would I would instantly just go out and buy whatever, go shopping. So I was like the opposite of being a minimalist and like living frugal back then. So
Mhm.
if I extrapolated that personality when I was a kid, I would not be financially independent in my 30s. Definitely not. So I think I kind of want to move on to Fire now, because I know obviously like you're more in the stock space and more in the crypto,
Yeah.
but one thing that we have in similarity is that we're both really involved in Fire, financial independence, retire early, because
Mhm.
we want to one day retire early, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's doing YouTube full time for you. For me, it's traveling full time and YouTube. So I kind of want to get into what sort of how did you learn about Fire, and what sort of inspired you? Like, what was your motivation to pursue it? Because like when I first heard about it, the first thing I saw was people were saving 80% of their incomes, 50% of their incomes, and that was like impossible for me.
Yeah.
Coming from a kid that spent all of his allowance,
Yeah.
it's like just switching my brain to saving 80% of my income. That seemed impossible. So, we can start with you, and then I'll tell my story later on of
Yeah,
like
sure.
how you, because like for you, it seemed like you already grew up with Fire. You just you learned about Fire to sort of just ingrain the fundamentals, but you already knew about the saving part growing up. So we can start
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like when you mentioned you got $20 allowance, for me, it was like I got $2 a week. And my dad would make me record it in a little booklet. So every week I put the date and $2 where I got that from. And
Really?
yeah. So I think like my dad taught me from a young age to manage my money well. And I definitely was influenced by him. But I think when I came across the concept of Fire was really through my journey on YouTube as a viewer, just like watching different financial channels. And eventually you're bound to stumble across the concept of Fire, because people who talk about money are likely the ones who want to retire early, or at least there's a
Yeah.
good portion of them that want to retire early, but maybe not necessarily actually retire in the sense of what you think about retirement today, but more so just do what they love. And that's kind of like the part that, so the first part of Fire, like the financial independence, is really what I resonate with. Um, and there's a few reasons why I think financial independence is important in my life. I've lost my job. I guess I've lost my job once, like got laid off. So that sort of made me think like, our jobs aren't as stable as we think,
Mhm.
especially in this time of the pandemic right now, right? There's a lot of layoffs going on. Unemployment's, I think it's spiked up. to like 16% at one point, maybe even 19% in the States. And in Canada, it's roughly around 16 or so. So like realizing that our jobs aren't as stable as we think they are, if we actually achieved FIRE earlier or had FIRE, if we had FIRE right now, right, we wouldn't really care if we got laid off from our jobs or not. We'd be doing things that we love to do. I think that's just like, that really resonates with me because I want to spend my time and energy on something that I enjoy doing. Not saying that I don't enjoy my job right now, but maybe 5 years down the road, I might not enjoy it as much as I did. And maybe I want to spend time at home parenting my kids, right? That might be, if I achieved FIRE, at least a portion, or had a good amount of savings that would allow me to, you know, leave my job for the time being, then I can do what I really love to do, which is, parent kids or go on vacation, or, for you, it might be something different. But the concept of FI just allows you to do what you want to do.
Yeah, so for me, I think the biggest thing that got me ingrained into it is you talked about being laid off. I was actually laid off too. So back then, like when I got laid off, I because I wasn't good in saving, so I
Mhm.
had just enough money in the bank to basically get pay off my bills for the month, like my cell phone bill, like whatever I had obligations wise for
Yeah.
that month. So like that really like that was like traumatizing for me, how I had to empty out my cash from my bank just to pay off any short term obligations. And
Mm.
then also like, the unemployment checks took forever to come in. It took like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I had to like basically try and do Uber. So it was very
Oh, yeah.
traumatizing, like that experience. So basically, you know, that was probably like the lowest point of my life. Being laid off, zeroing out my bank account to pay short-term obligations, like that was rough. So I think like I would go home depressed after an Uber ride because like it just sucked, right? Like I felt like my
Yeah.
life sucked. So basically I on the side I started doing research on like just saving money. I mean, I had to. So for me, I think I was kind of forced to do fire.
Hmm.
Because like I was this like laid off kid who doesn't have money in the bank, and I was sort of just I naturally got inclined to doing research on like budgeting and like because I knew that my lifestyle was unsustainable.
Yeah.
My first year in corporate America, I was blowing, so I was like willingly living paycheck to paycheck.
Okay.
Like I chose to live paycheck to paycheck because I wanted to.
Yeah.
Because like so I would go out to bars and clubs, drop $200 here and
Oh,
there, like
geez.
like nothing. So yeah, so I definitely learned my lesson. Like so I don't advise people to learn fire after being laid off.
Hmm.
Definitely a very depressing feeling. So I think I just want to encourage people that, definitely don't wait until like a traumatizing experience something like that to happen to your life to learn fire. I think learning fire at the early age, if possible, is definitely very beneficial to your life. So for me, that's why I sort of got into fire is because of that traumatizing experience. But then like sort of I learned the value of it is so similar to you, the fee part is what I resonate with, the financial independence.
Hmm.
Because I don't really some people do fire and just try to grow their nest egg as large as possible. So where they're making like 6 figures a year and then they'll retire. For me,
Hmm.
that's not really like what I'm trying to do. For me, I'm just trying to build enough of a nest egg to where I can travel the world full time. Because for me, I have the ambition to travel to 100 countries around the
Yeah.
world. So I am doing fire so I can travel full time and then maybe do YouTube on the side. My channel will probably evolve into more of a travel cost of living content after that. But for now, it's personal finance. Yeah, so that is my motivation for fire. And I'm not waiting for my portfolio to be like a 5 million, $10 million portfolio before I retire. Like for me, I'm just waiting for just the bare minimum, like the bare minimum amount. And like that is a portfolio that can achieve $1,000 a month of passive income,
Hmm.
you know? So if I can achieve $1,000 a month of passive income, like I'm out, like
Yeah.
corporate America gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
and I guess you've done the math for that too, right? Because you know
yeah,
that like
yeah.
off of $1,000, like these are your expenses. You probably budget at $1,000 roughly, um, and you know that like
for
a good
for
deal
for
amount.
for Southeast Asia and Eastern Europe, $1,000 a month is extremely doable, and you're not like living on ramen. Like you're living a pretty decent, comfortable life for
Yeah.
Southeast Asia and Eastern Europe. Obviously, not in the UK,
Yeah.
not in maybe Spain, not in Australia, not in New Zealand, but basically, if you go to a non-Western first world country, then $1,000 a month is extremely doable, and you're living pretty decently comfortable.
Hmm. So I guess I have a question for you because you talk about you're mainly doing crypto stuff. So does crypto pay dividends? Because how do you get that passive income off of
Yes,
crypto?
yes. So crypto right now is evolving. Back in 2017, the space that evolved a lot were exchanges. So I don't know if you've heard of Coinbase, Binance. These are
Yeah.
exchanges. Right now, like if you had to borrow money, you would have to go through a bank or maybe a third party lender like Sophie or Prosper or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's very tough because like the interest rates there are very high. Because I remember I had to get a personal loan once in my life, and interest rates, I had decent credit, and the interest rates were like at 14, 15, 16%, like extremely high.
Like almost
Um,
credit card level.
yeah, even for a personal loan. So right now, what's being involved in this space is lending platforms like BlockFi
Hmm.
and Celsius Network. So what they do is, so for someone like me, I have Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
And you have there's always interest for personal loans. Like people always need money for something, especially if they got laid off from their jobs. But
Yeah.
they want to be able to borrow money at the least amount of rate as possible.
Yep.
And some of these people might have collateral like Bitcoin or Ethereum. So what they would do is they would deposit their Bitcoin or Ethereum in this platform, and then they'll pay maybe a minimal fee of 5% APR, which is so much better than banks, like what banks give you. Because
Yeah.
it's very hard to get a 6% APR from a bank.
Yeah.
So that's what they do. So they would pay maybe a 6%, 7% APR, and then for me as a depositor, so I would so for depositors, I actually deposit some of my Bitcoins into the platform,
Hmm.
and then I make 6% APR on that Bitcoin.
So
You
that's
know,
basically how you can get your passive income, which is
right?
actually pretty good. Like typically in the stock market, we shoot for like a 4% dividend. Like you average about a 4% return on your assets every year if you're investing like in the overall market, or at least that's what we. Sorry, 4% of dividends is what we shoot for. Roughly returns on the stock market is like 7% a year. So with a 6% return, you're doing pretty well. So you need a lower amount to achieve that $1,000.
Yeah. I mean, I've sort of watched the community, and they don't believe that 6% is sustainable when we scale to mass adoption, because that's a pretty high rate. So I think we believe that the rates will go down, but it's sort of early adopter rate
I
that
see.
that that we're getting. So I think when we scale, that rate might go down to maybe 4% passively on Bitcoin. But for now, it's early adopter rate. It's sort of a
Yeah.
marketing technique to get people into the platform and entice them with higher rates.
Yeah. So I guess with let's say like planning on the future, right? 4% is the rate that you can expect to receive. What's your ideal amount for achieving the five part of five?
So I think so. Since I'm so unsure on how rates will play out in the crypto space, I sort of think that I can achieve a 6% rate on interest. So as you know, like dividends, like you said, have 4% yield.
Yeah.
So right now in crypto, we have this thing called stable coins. So
Yep.
basically, it's essentially like the U.S. dollar or the Canadian dollar. And like what these stable coins pay out is they pay out 8% interest for depositors. So it's
Hmm.
kind of like a savings account, but a savings account pays you, I think, 0.25%.
Something like that.
Yeah, but for a stable coin, they pay out 8% for deposits.
Hmm.
So that's sort of my plan. I might have maybe not 100% of my portfolio, but like a good chunk into cash, which is a stable coin. And then hopefully I can maintain that 8% rate. But I think I'm kind of conservative, so I'm sort of thinking 6%. They might lower it. So I think with a lot of my stable coins, hopefully I can get 6% rate, and then because like the way they make money is they're gonna take your stable coins and then like lend it out to someone else at a
Yeah.
much higher rate. So whatever that margin is, they keep. But it's a much tighter margin than a bank, because a bank, like, like for a bank, they pay you 0.25% interest on your savings, but they'll take that money and lend it out via mortgage or personal loans or credit cards. So a bank's margin is extremely wide,
Yeah.
you know, 0.25% for depositors. And then for lenders, they charge 14, 15,
Yeah.
24%. So for these platforms, they're basically tidying it up, so definitely not keeping the profits for themselves and then giving out to people like me and you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of my plan, is just to I'm probably not going to be super allocated into crypto once the next bull market hits. I'll probably like deleverage my position into cryptocurrency and sort of see what's undervalued out there, like whether that be real estate or
Mm-hmm.
stocks. So I'm definitely going to deleverage my allocation, because I won't have time to study the market, on an hourly basis now. So
Yeah.
I think like when I have less time, I have less comfort. So I gotta diversify my portfolio at that point, since I'm just traveling.
Yeah. That would totally make sense. Do you have like the ideal amount in like a dollar amount in US dollars?
So I think for me, that's right over $200,000,
Okay.
because $200,000 would yield $12,000 per year at 6% APR.
Mm-hmm.
Because that $12,000, I'm still going to be taxed here in the US, but for an income that low, taxes are only 10%. So,
Yeah.
um, a 10% tax on 12,000. Hopefully, I'll make the money somewhere else if I ever need that extra money. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so 200,000 is my current mark. What about you? What's your like quit your job mark kind of nest egg?
Yeah, I think for me right now, like the magical number that I've been going on this whole time is like 2 million is what I need
2 million?
to like quit
Really? Okay.
everything, like absolutely just
Okay.
stop everything,
Okay.
not care. That's sort of the ideal amount because off of 4%, that's 80K a year, and that's more than enough. Like after tax, after taxes, it might be more like around 50 to 60. And I'd assume that like all mortgages are paid off. And like I guess for me, I'm not super into the fire mentality of saving like 90% of your income, because I think at the same time like you have to live a little bit. Right now we're still young, like in our 20s, and this is like when we're the most able. So like foregoing vacations or different adventures, I think would be a mistake to do, because when we're like 40 or 50 with kids, like we're not going to be able to do the same things that we can do right now. But I think like 50 to 40% of my income saved is very doable. And like when I travel, I try to do it as frugal as possible. But I think like to actually quit my job, I would need YouTube to sort of replace that income.
Hmm.
Because I do have the aspiration to also like have a family, and needing to support kids, like they're expensive.
Yeah.
So YouTube would have to basically replace my current job's income
Okay.
in order for me to actually quit my job. And I think for me to quit everything, 2 mil is sort of the magical number. I think it's totally doable, maybe by the age of 35 to 40, if I invest well, on top of save my income and do YouTube on the side and run other businesses. Like right now, I'm actually running a Shopify store on top of all this too. I
Wow.
sold one of my products, like I sold a product this morning to a guy who picked it up. And I think he wants to buy a second one. So
Nice.
yeah, basically just trying to like find multiple income streams and supplement my main job's income, and eventually maybe those multiple income streams will become my main job, and I can actually quit like the full-time job. Do you see yourself like, in the future, if you achieve this goal of being like a travel vlogger for life, do you think you'll ever come back to America and like have to work a corporate job maybe in your 40s and 50s because you're done with that? Or yeah.
Once I quit my corporate job, I don't see myself coming back. So sort of the motivation for me is to hustle, because I know that, say I quit with a portfolio of $200,000, I'm
Yeah.
only making $1,000 a month, and I know that I can't cut it in the US. A lot of my family live in the US.
Yeah.
So for me, it's sort of there's this thing called burning the boats, right? What's his name? Magellan, I think. There's this guy that came from Europe all the way to the US, right?
Hmm.
And they basically went to not the US, but the Americas, from Canada all the way down to Mexico. And they went via ship all the way to the US. And basically, they did that so they can conquer the land. And back then, they had like Native Americans
Yeah.
back there. So they had to basically go through a war. And what the general did, I think his name was Magellan. I forgot his name, but the general told his crew to burn the boats. And then the crew was like, are you crazy? Like, burn the boats? Like, how do we get back to Europe? And he's like, that's the point. Like, I want you guys to have the mentality to where like there's no looking back. Like once we burn the boats, we have to win this war.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna conquer this land, so there's no other option but to win.
Hmm.
So that's sort of my mentality is like once I quit my job with a $200,000 portfolio, it's like burning the boats. I'm telling myself that I'm not gonna go back to corporate,
Yeah.
and I do want to go back to America. America is a beautiful country. It's amazing. I love living here. And with that mentality to where I can't afford to live in the US with $1,000 a month, that's gonna force me to hustle, like, you
Yeah.
know, upload videos every day, vlog every day, like whatever it takes to monetize and really achieve a livable income here in the US, it's gonna
Yeah.
force me to. So I'm sort of burning the boats. Once I quit my job, now it's like phase two of my life. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, now it's like, okay, I did something crazy and I want to go back to the US so bad. So I got to scale YouTube now,
Yeah.
you know? So that's burning the boats is what I call that. How is the crypto space, by the way, in Canada? Is it, do you hear it among your peers or is it sort of this like, oh, it's crypto, this guy's a scammer?
Yeah, I think crypto is not as widely adopted here in Canada. Like we have one platform called CoinSquare, which is basically like the Coinbase of Canada. That's where I hold my crypto right now.
Okay.
I think there's another one like Quadrigas, and that one went under. There's some sort of like scam involved with that whole company.
Yeah.
But it's not very big. I think Canada's just like a slower adopter, and we take the more cautious approach. And you can kind of see this in like the way that our governments run. Like for US, I think, you guys tried to open up the economy as soon as possible. Whereas in Canada right now, we're still in like lockdown. Like for in Ontario where I live right now, the premier, who's basically like the head of the province, he keeps on delaying the date which the economy can open. Like I swear he's delayed it like 5 to 10 times so far. But
Really?
whereas in the States, you guys like had bars open, beaches were open, and like people are just doing whatever they want. I think it's just like there's a lot more freedom in the States, it seems like, but it may come at a bit of a cost, at least for COVID, that is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like your businesses do a lot better too, right? You guys have lower corporate tax there. Your businesses, like they're able to attract more talent. They're able to make bolder moves. And like you can see that with a lot of the Silicon Valley companies, how they're, four of them are above $1 trillion market cap right now. And that's because of like the values of the states and how it's a lot more free there to do what you want to do. And people are more like willing to adopt new concepts like crypto. Whereas in Canada, I think we're a little bit more, maybe a bit more conservative, more closed-minded into new things, and we like our stability,
Yeah.
which is why I don't think as many people have adopted crypto in Canada.
I think it's going to take some time. The
Yeah,
first mark is for Bitcoin to hit all-time highs again of
yeah,
20K before it even goes back to mainstream.
yeah. And it seems like there's waves from when I studied a bit on it, right? There was like maybe 4 or 5 bull runs that have happened in the past, and each time it happens, like it crashes 80-90% afterwards.
Yeah. It's because of the Bitcoin protocol. Every 4 years, so kind of like gold, right? So gold, how you build a gold coin is someone has to mine it from the ground.
Yeah,
Like with Bitcoin, we have miners too, but it's all in IT.
yeah.
So like every 4 years, the new supply of Bitcoin gets cut in half. So if the demand stays the same and the supply gets cut in half, then it's just going to be natural for the price to go up.
Hmm.
So that it's sort of built in the Bitcoin protocol for the next 100 or so something years.
Yeah.
Every 4 years, the new supply of Bitcoin gets cut in half. So it becomes even harder to own a piece of Bitcoin every 4 years.
Mm. So I guess if anyone who's watching this wants to get into Bitcoin, now is the time, right? Prices are low.
Yeah, if they believe in the fundamentals, like
That's true.
that's one thing that I basically hated myself for. Is I jumped into Bitcoin with the mentality of I wanted to get rich.
Yeah,
And I mean, don't get me wrong, we all have that. Like you own Amazon stocks to be rich. I own
yeah,
Bitcoin to be rich, but it's like that should be the bonus.
yeah,
But the core should be like you believe in it so much. Like you own Amazon because you believe in the business model, and I own
yeah,
Bitcoin because I believe in the white paper and the
yeah.
Bitcoin protocol. So I think fundamental first, and then like worry about being rich later on.
Yeah, because if you invest in something that you don't believe in, when it falters, like when Bitcoin dropped from what 24K down to like 10K, that's a pretty big drop, and it can take you on an emotional roller coaster. But if you really believe in the fundamentals and you look like 10 years down the road and what it's used for and why it can become so big, then you are going to keep hodling, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's pretty early
Yeah,
in the wave. The last peak was only in 2018, so we're only 2 years out. So it happens every 4 years or so.
yeah. So 2022, right? That's the year to watch for.
2022 is what I think when the next peak would be in this market.